right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP online sales magazine and Coavera, formerly Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from an extremely sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted and privileged to welcome Dr. James Maisiri, who is actually in Johannesburg in South Africa. How are you doing, James?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Thanks for the invite. Thank you
Yeah,
for
and
the
thank you
invite.
for
I'm happy to
joining
be
us
here.
in your evening and so far away. So, and you're an AI and society researcher, author, and three times TEDx speaker, focused on how artificial intelligence is reshaping work, education, culture, and society across Africa. Recent PhD graduate in industrial sociology from the University of Johannesburg. Your research examines the labor market impacts for IR technologies and the cultural cost of imported AI systems and the risks of digital, easy for me to say, colonialism. um, and through your talks, you said you're arguing if Africa does not shape AI, then AI will shape Africa, and you champion responsible, inclusive AI governance grounded in African values, languages, and indigenous knowledge. Um, yeah, and to be honest, James, coming originally from Ireland, a country that was colonized for 850 years and has suffered, I think digital colonization, colonialism is a real issue. We've
Mm.
seen cultural imperialism in the past through media and entertainment. This is not so. I agree with you. So, what made you? What's creating the urgency for you about Africa needs to shape AI before AI shapes Africa?
I think for me, the biggest problem is that right now, if you're building an AI system, unless if you're China or America, you're gonna somewhat need another foreign entity's permission. So
Hmm.
90% of the computing power that's required to build AI is within China and America to train these models in the form of
Yeah,
complicated chips. But Africa and all 53 countries, their computing power only has up to 1% of the world.
mm,
So that creates a situation now where we're importing AIs that are made in the West for Western problems, creating Western solutions, and we just copy pasting them in the African context, and we've seen adverse consequences or some consequences from that. And it's normally advertised like in the name of progress to just adopt these AIs, and I'm
yeah.
just cautioning that we should put our hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah, well, what are some of the impacts the negative impacts that it's had there? Because I don't think people are aware of those, and I think people just see AI as this kind of black box, and it's great and it's available, and they don't really think too deeply. I mean, I'm saying most people don't think too deeply after that.
Okay. I can give you two examples, one economic and one cultural.
Hmm.
So about 64% of all loans to small, medium enterprise businesses in Africa are governed by an AI by one form, shape, or another. And
Wow.
there was a study that was done that showed that women-led construction companies that apply for a loan would get penalized for it. They'll be 53% less likely to get the loan relative to men. And whenever they did get it, there'll be a much higher interest rate. Now, you might be wondering why. The answer is a long equation, but a digit in that specific equation is because the AI is trained in the West and does not have the unique African histories where didn't have title deeds or property and all that. So all that data feeds into the AI's decision, and my mom or my daughter's in the construction industry applies for a loan and gets punished for it. And it's not just that a human decided, but an AI and algorithm decided that nah, they're not able to compete within the market. So this
Mm.
has economic effects.
Yeah, big, big.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think the cultural example would be an interesting one in Zambia, where childbirth for people in Zambia is not a medical thing; it's a deeply cultural thing, right? They've been passing on knowledge from generation to generation. They know what herbs to eat, what roots to mix water with and to drink. They know what traditional healers to go
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
to not only protect the body but to protect the baby and them spiritually. But NGOs within that particular space have introduced AI apps for prenatal care, which is great and it helps. But what tends to happen is because it was created within the Western society, it only recommends Western practices.
Yeah.
So there's like a conflict of culture in terms of our way of doing things and the way this particular technology you've brought forth is doing things that's eroding our identity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think those are things that, I mean, they're so fascinating, things that people don't think about, because here is a real situation where uh, your country, your culture, everything could be overwritten by defaults in AI that come from the West. And let's face it, they don't just come from the West; they come from a certain segment, of
Yeah.
people who are creating these and deciding what people. And so it is. I mean, I agree with you. I do think it is a real issue. Like digital imperialism, digital colonialism is a real issue. And I think it's fantastic that people like you are raising it, because it's not obvious. It's not obvious to most people. Um,
Yes.
and so you're saying, so what should AI governance for country like African countries? What should that look like, so that they, or for any country for that matter, so that they can ensure that they protect their own cultural and historical values?
Well, right now, that's what we are debating and we're trying to
Mhm.
figure out in Africa. So there's no one clear answer, but a couple
Mhm.
of things are required. There has to be some form of human accountability or responsibility to whatever algorithmic decision that
Yeah.
is made.
Mhm.
I don't know if you heard of the case of the first AI agent harassment case that happened like 3 months ago, 2 months ago.
No, no, I didn't. Oh, please do tell.
So it's there's like a I don't know what to call it, like a place where software engineers come online to share codes and whatnot.
Mhm.
And they have a rule that there's no AI that can just put codes in there because they
Sure.
want to keep the integrity and what. But there's an autonomous AI agent. An AI agent operates autonomously, and
Sure.
they created their own code and submitted it. This particular human being, I forget his name. I think his last name goes with Scott, but you can Google it. You can Google it.
Mhm.
He rejected that particular AI agent for because of their policy and their rules. And the AI agent on its own went on the internet, collected all the personal information of that particular human being, and wrote a blog hit piece on that particular person. So now you can imagine if he went to apply for a job and the human resource person just Googled his name, it's like a hit piece of he's a he's
And
an
he probably, and I
anti-progressive.
presume he probably wasn't aware that this was up, was he?
He got away later on,
Yeah,
but he
that's what
was
I'm
ready
saying.
to the yeah.
Yeah.
It made the news like it did it autonomously. So now the question is, who's responsible for that AI agent? Is it the person that created it? Because that was not the intention
Mhm.
of the individual. Is it the blog post platform that allows it? So we need to make sure that there's somebody who answers to the decisions that these particular algorithms are in, and that definitely needs to be the case within the African context as well. We
Yeah.
also,
Go ahead.
sorry,
No, no, go ahead. I
we,
was just agreeing.
there's been some progress, not enough, but we also need to train these systems based on African realities or the perspectives of whatever society you're using these
Mhm.
technologies from, to put in your culture, to put in your decisions, to put in your way of life. Because right now you're just taking it from China, just taking it from America, so that doesn't help the situation. But it's a tough mountain to climb, but one step at a time.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, because I mean, countries are going to have to build their own language models too, aren't they? I mean,
Yes.
ultimately, and that raises its own issue. But yeah, I take, well, because let's face it, the normal way of doing like any kind of technology, you try to build to a standard and kind of deal with the exception. Here with AI, as we said, if you build it to a standard, um, especially a cultural standard, you have to decide what that is. So there's going to be one dominant one. So it doesn't work in this instance, because you can't just have one dominant culture.
Yes, yes, yes. But yes, 100%. I think just to add on to what you were saying and what I was saying before, for the
Mhm.
African context, it's easy for us to speak about these solutions, but in practical terms, it's unbelievably difficult. So, for example, data centers, they take a lot of electricity,
Yeah.
and 8 out of 10 people living without access to electricity in the world live in Africa.
Hmm.
Like, like most of them are,
Yeah.
are right here. And also the fact that in Africa, you realize that AI is just not code and technical stuff. At the foundation is human. You need highly skilled individuals to do it. And what tends to happen is when an African is educated, they migrate to America, to Chinese to build those systems
Sure.
again. I mean, those companies don't waste time. They like literally pick the top talent within African universities. So yeah, we are struggling to build our own foundation and our own systems right now, but the fight continues.
Yeah, well, it is a huge challenge if you think about it. It is a huge challenge for countries, and as you said, because especially countries who have a colonial legacy, maybe trying to rebuild. They have so many historical things that they have to cope with, and as you said, I mean, access to electricity, clean water, all of that stuff. What do data centers need? Electricity and water.
Yeah.
Right, they're taking the two commodities that most people need to function in a modern society, and not all of these are available, as you said, to everybody. So that's a real tension, isn't it?
It's a serious tension. I mean, we struggle outside of AI, we struggle with those resources
Yeah.
alone, just to have enough of those resources. Like, so just to include that into our ecosystem is just a whole other monster.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, then comes the tension. D- do you focus on making sure that everybody has clean water and electricity, or do you say, well, if I do that, I'm going to fall behind on AI, so I'm going to move some of those scarce resources over here for AI? I mean, that's a real decision point, isn't it?
It is, it is. I have a controversial take on this, but when I look at how far ahead America or China is, I can't imagine an individual African country actually competing. I mean, we only have like 5 AI powers countries in Africa. So I'm of the opinion that trade agreements specifically geared towards AI across African countries to move as a united front, all 53 of us, is probably the best way to actually handle the AI race and also handle the resources and the inequalities that is. Because in some countries like Ghana, there's plenty water
Sure.
and others that doesn't. So just us coming together, moving forward, united could be the only saving grace I see in this
Mhm.
particular race. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going for that. So that's a pretty easy one then, easy solution, just to get all the countries to work together, right?
I wish.
Yeah,
Getting people to talk to each other is
yeah.
difficult. And there's some African countries that are in the dark about AI, they're
Yeah.
facing
Well,
other issues. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say to you, so James, I mean, across all those 50 odd countries, 53, did you say? I can't, is that the correct number, 53?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Um, so how many of them would you say, just on average, like a percent, how many of those would you say are aware of this or looking at this? How many of them would you say have got other issues that this is just not their priority right now?
That's a very good question. Um, I would say maybe about 5, 6 are properly leading the
Mm,
race. I mean, you have countries like Zimbabwe who would have an AI policy that to claim that they're entering the race, but there's not enough or there's nothing that's been really done. It's just like a document online. I would
mhm.
say countries like South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, those countries are really wrestling and tussling with this technology and trying to move forward with it.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, it's not, people think it's not just AI, but it's also robotics and automation and all of those things as well. How, I mean, you look at the impact of AI and robotics and things on labor markets, including migrant workers. I mean, how do you see all of this impacting there? Because there's deep issues around the future of work and economic migration and all of that kind of stuff. Um, AI, robotics, automation, all of those things potentially displace a lot more people.
Yeah, so the consensus of what these technologies are going to do in the labor market in general globally is
Sure.
very debatable, and in
Yeah.
Africa it's even worse.
Mhm.
I would say though, my fear is that in Africa, agriculture is the largest employer, and a lot of those workers are unskilled labor, a lot of
Mhm.
unskilled migrant labor, and the automation that's happening within the agriculture industry is catching up and
Yeah.
building up. So I was during my PhD thesis, I was in Eastern Cape. I saw a packing machine that can do the work of 60 people, right? So you have to keep in mind that the vast people that's employed in this sector don't have education. So the plan B is
Yeah,
not really
yeah.
there. There
Mhm.
is no real plan B when this is taken away from them. So and African governments are not thinking about this hard enough. So it's really fragmented what the results will be per se, but where it becomes bad, it will become really bad. But we're also seeing opportunities though, where young Africans will go online, learn how to code, learn about AI without formal education, create like a pest scanning app, and
Hmm.
go sell it to subsistence farmers, like in the rural areas,
Yeah.
right? So you're seeing these young Africans use this technology to leapfrog forward their social economic condition. So it's
Hmm.
really a mixed bag. And when you and if your viewers ever Google Alex Madere, right? He's a good example. He stays in Malawi and he stays in a cyclone area that was just removing, destroying the crops. And the government gave them an AI app, an advisory app on what to do and what not to do. These are very uneducated people who have not been
Hmm.
exposed. And that AI app walked him on what to plant, how to plant with those specific disasters. And it doubled his income. It did,
Uh,
um, improve these social economic conditions, which just shows the potential and the opportunities that are also there within the particular ground.
yeah,
So it's
and
truly a mixed bag.
yeah, and those are fantastic examples then of I mean of people, as you said, like young entrepreneurial people coming up realizing that one of the great things about technology today is the access to knowledge, right?
Yeah,
Once upon a
yeah.
time it was, knowledge was restricted, and was access to only a certain amount of people who could afford to go to colleges, get all this. So it's open so them, but then using their knowledge of local conditions to solve a local problem with technology. I mean, that's kind of the best of all worlds, isn't it?
100%. When it's done right, is absolutely a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does have potential to shift us forward if just done right.
Yeah, and you've spoken about like AI. I mean, because we sounded like, there's obviously a lot of dooming in here, but it's more. I don't call it dooming. I call it facing reality as it is, right? It's not.
Mm.
If it's good, you call it good. If there's issues there, you call
Yeah.
out the issues. But you've
Yes.
also spoken about AI reconnecting to our humanity. Um, Talk to me a little bit about that, because maybe on the surface, some people would say, "Well, isn't it the opposite? It's disconnecting us from our humanity."
Yeah. That was like what, 4 or 5 years ago, I think, when I published that. Um,
Do you still believe it?
yeah, that's the issue. I don't know if I still think I don't think I still think that way.
Mhm.
Because my thinking back then was based on 3 points, if I remember correctly. The third point was when we were seeing what it can do for um within the psychological field,
Yeah,
right? The promise it had. Mental health is not really taken too seriously in Africa. Like African families or traditional families have different belief systems that would be contradictory to how you understand mental health and what are the healthy things to
sure.
do. So at that time, I thought AI apps being available to do some therapy. There's a lot of promising studies to show what they could do, but a lot of research has been done later on, and that's it's a contested view. Like we're still
Mm.
trying to understand what AI can do within the psychological field.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
saw a lot of promise at that particular point in time.
yeah. No, absolutely. And I think there's even new psychological issues cropping up now with some people
Yes.
getting AI obsessed.
Yes, yes. And I mean, even the odd case of I forget the boy's name, may he rest in peace, of where ChatGPT ushered him towards suicide.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know, the family, I can only imagine what the family went through. So yeah, we're not so sure anymore about what it's doing in the psychological field, let me
Yeah.
say.
So in and finally, so James, for people in Africa and in certainly in the countries that maybe are best set up for that, what kind of are there mindset shifts that they need to make in order to understand how they can leverage AI, for the future of their country, of their businesses, their locale, the issues they have in their society and all that. I mean, do you think people are starting to sort of really try to understand that a little deeper?
I think most people are still very, very unaware. Most people
Mhm.
are very, in the African context, most people are very unaware, as if we're in those few selected countries. I think also I'm being a little bit harsh, but from my view, governments are too quick to think this technology is going to leapfrog the economy forward. There's a
Right.
lot of critical thinking that still needs to be done. Um, Even with those researchers who are in policies, they need to be more careful. I don't know if you heard about the South African case where they drafted a AI policy law and everything, and then News 24 found out 6 days later that there were like 60 or so hallucinated references,
Yeah.
right? Or I don't know the number exactly, but a lot of hallucinated references, which just goes to show that an AI wrote the AI policy, right? There's not enough critical
Yeah,
engagement.
I love that. Yeah, I did for our own company, actually. I built a with Claude Code, and that is I built a validator, um,
Oh, beautiful.
basically, that validates everything and validates it all independently and right up to date, and even can be tested with other LLMs to validate what it is saying. Because, to your point, because it's even here, people are not understanding that the output of AI isn't bulletproof, and people think it is. People think, oh, it's 100, and
Yeah,
they just throw stuff out, and like it ends up being 50, at least 50% slop.
yeah, 100%. So, but is that the mindset is still if as far as technology can leap us frog us forward,
Yeah.
it's like it's everything it says is right, but you just follow it, it's just important. It's too rushed right now. So I think that's particularly the thing that will have to change, and that can only be done with education, awareness, and letting people be much more aware.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, James, thank you so much. This was extremely fascinating. Thank you. Really, really interesting stuff. All of Jane's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about what you do.
Oh, okay. So I'm a researcher. Right now I'm looking at AI in education within the African context. I'm trying to wrap my head around that and to understand that. But yeah, that's what I'm busy with. I'm a keynote speaker as well. I get booked to go into organizations in the private sector to explain what's happening, what to be aware of, what to look out for, and that's what I'm busy with right now.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much, James. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.